Okay, today we're looking at the first 10 tasks in Illustrator, and we're starting with the idea of the rainbow shape representing the visible spectrum. That's what you can see. The white triangle represents the colors that can be reproduced in RGB. That would be like our screens. The gray oval, the colors that can be reproduced in CMYK. That would be like from the printer. And they want to know which black dot is out of the gamut for both color spaces. That means the dot that's outside of the triangle and the circle, that would be this top dot here. And then, so after we click on that, we're just going to go down and get this out of the way to next. To make a circle look like from A to B, they want to know what tool do we use. And I want you to take a look at how this works. So we're going to actually close this for a second, and I want you to get the circle, and let's practice holding shift to make sure it's round. And then let's go ahead and fill it with yellow. And when the black stroke, make it a little bigger so we can see what we're doing. And let's look at the difference between using the eraser tool, which gets rid of pixels. So I can erase and they're disappear. Okay, I'm going to undo that. That's the eraser tool versus the knife tool that cuts things in half. Okay, versus the scissor tool, which if you click right on an anchor point, what it does is it breaks, it cuts it there, and now I can move that anchor. That is the scissor tool. So I want you to practice with that. You're going to just cut that anchor, and now you've got an opening. That is what we were looking at in GMetrix. So you can see how we got the scissor tool to make the break. Okay. All right, you should know these. Let's go ahead and grab the pen tool. Is here. The rectangle tool. The eraser tool. This is the brush tool. And then our shape builder tool. You can double check those. They're over here. If you have any questions, you can look at those again. And the shape builder tool. Okay, when exporting a document to a JPEG, the following options are available. Match the description and export the option. Okay, so resolution has to talk about how many pixels. So that has to do with, or if you're printing, so 72 pixels per inch, up to 300 pixels per inch. That's resolution. Okay, we already know our color model. That would either be RGB, red, green, blue, or CMYK. So then the other two are ones that you haven't really heard about. So let's take a quick look at what anti-alias is. Okay, so looking back at our question here. Oh, hold on, it's not showing you everything. Okay, so back to the idea of exporting as a JPEG. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like. We've got our I'm going to close this for a second. We've got our shape. Let's say I want to export this as a picture, and I'm going to go File, Export As, and let's just say I'll call it circle, open. And I can pick all kinds of different export file types, but right now we're talking about JPEG. And JPEG, we use it because we can make the file smaller in size. So not worrying about the color mode right now, although we can change that. And here's this controls the size of the file depending on the quality that we export at. And here's the compression method that's going to depend on how small we want that file and how clear it's going to look is going to be the resolution. More resolution, the larger the file, but the cleaner it's going to look. And here's the anti-aliasing here if you're doing it based on art optimization. There's just different choices that are going to make it look more. Let's go ahead and click OK. So looking back at what does this mean? Again, the anti-aliasing is going to make the edges smoother. So instead of just being a stair step, it's going to look like a smoother edge since we're not going to have a vector straight edge anymore. And then the compression, again, the more you compress it, it's going to be a smaller file size. So looking at GMetrix here, again, we want just think of anti-aliasing as the art, A for art, and the compression, your standard or progressive or optimized. You're optimizing your files. Okay, we're going to click next. And let's take a quick look at this one last question right now. Which of the following describes a creative work that can be used without permission because it's owned by the public, not an individual? And that is going to be public domain. Fair use would be if you were going to use it for the news, and then derivative works, that's like a sequel, and then signed release forms would be something you would have to get if something was owned by someone. You'd have to have a release form. So the correct answer, public owned, you can use it for free.